very special program, Cricket Predicta on NewsX, powered by 1xBet. In yesterday's IPL clash, Royal Challengers Bangalore secured their first victory of the season, overcoming Punjab Kings by 4 wickets. The match took place at M Chinnaswamy Stadium, where Bangalore successfully chased down Punjab's target of 177 runs, reaching 176 for 6 in the 20th over. Virat Kohli, of course, the King Kohli is back, and what a bang he was back with. Virat Kohli shone with an explosive 77 runs of 49 deliveries, making his 51st IPL half-century. In fact, his 100th T20 50, becoming the first Indian batsman to achieve this milestone. Turning our attention to today's match, it's going to be a thrilling encounter between Chennai Super Kings and Gujarat Titans at MA Chidambaram Stadium. Both the teams are entering the game on the back of their first victories in the tournament. Chennai got off to a winning start, defeating Royal Challengers Bangalore by 6 wickets, while Gujarat clinched a tight 6-run victory over Mumbai, with a history of closely contested matches between them. Having played 5 IPL encounters where Chennai has won 2 and Gujarat 3. Well, that's quite a rare phenomena. Well, this show is going to be an exhilarating contest between 2 of the oldest. One is the oldest team and the second is the new kid on the block. Of course, we are joined by a bevy of high-profile guests today. Mr. Rajkumar Sharma, Virat Kohli's coach, who's going to be joining us. Mr. Derek Willian, the former Zimbabwean cricketer, who can forget his 2000 test match and 2000 in India, Nagpur test match, where he played with that solid innings with Andy Flower. Stanley Chizwa, the former Zimbabwean junior cricketer and coach now. David Brooks, former cricket director, Channel 4 UK. Well, I'm Sunil Yashkalra and I welcome all of you. Well, in fact, I'll go on to David Brooks. David, we spoke about Virat Kohli, and guess what happened yesterday? What an inning it was. Your views?
Well, we called the show Predicta, and we spoke about RCB winning and Virat Kohli coming into his own after that one game and dominating the match. That's what he did. It was great. It was great to see. I mean, yes, he had that couple of lucky escapes early on off Curran. Bairstow putting down a fairly simple chance to slip. Well, he needed that. And after that, he was away, wasn't he? It's classic Virat Kohli. And it was great to see that he's going to light up this IPL as he has done so many other series and tournaments before.
Well, absolutely. The innings that he played was absolutely, he's got 11 fours and couple of sixes there as well, but more importantly, the way he was spacing up and he was giving that anchor sheet role. Did it remind you of the World Cup, ODI World Cup, which went by 6 months ago? Your views? And then... Yes,
it did. You know, we spoke yesterday about whether it was necessary for them to go mad from the start. And we said, no, Virat has to bat long. And, you know, he did that. He would have been disappointed not to have seen it through to the finish. But he showed that way he goes through the gears and builds an innings is a lesson for everyone in the tournament.
Well, absolutely. Again, the interesting question here was that how we are managing to put together the last over finishes. Isn't it good for the fans there?
It's great for the game. Great for the game. We've had a number of close finishes already, and it just shows that the tournament is in very rude health, isn't it? It's great for the game to see so many tight finishes. Fans like it. And certainly the TV stations will love it.
Well, we have Stanley joining us, the coach and the former player. Stanley, what's your view on yesterday's game? Did you expect it to be as close as it came out to be?
I thought it would really go to the wire. I remember early on in our conversation, I was really looking forward to the Kings taking it. Because I thought that bowling unit that really can take care of and defend such totals. But yeah, just a few runs short, I think. But then also you can easily say they kind of gave the game away because they didn't take all their chances. I mean, they let slip quite early. They could have, have they taken those chances, could have been a different story.
Well, absolutely. If they took the first ball chances, it could have been a different story. Well, we are yet to join Dirk Wellewijn, the former Zimbabwean cricketer, should be joining us very soon. Stanley, when we go on and play, there we have Dirk Vellewen, the former Zimbabwean cricketer. We spoke about. Welcome to the show, Dirk.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure not to see you in the Harare Sports Club, but also on television in India. A big welcome. You have fond memories of India, especially the Nagpur Test, where your mate, Andy Flower, scored that double 100. Do you have vivid memories of that?
Well, I had a best seat in the house watching Andy Flower do his business while I stood on the other end and just got hit and kept banging and missing. I take great sort of privilege in being able to play with Andy Flower and sort of in awe of him in not being the player that he was and never probably would have been. But some great memories. I loved my tours to India. We had some great competitions there, not only with India themselves, but we played in triangulars with Australia and whatever, and have great fond memories of all my trips to the subcontinent.
Well, Dirk, one important aspect I wanted to find out, since you had the best seat that day in Nagpur Test, where he went on to score 200 runs, what is the man behind the coach? We're talking about Andy, the man behind the coach.
So it was quite interesting because I think in those days when we were teammates and you sort of don't really discuss those kind of things. You know, you don't really ask a guy, or maybe some do, maybe that was the lack of my success because I didn't sort of ask Andy Flower what made him tick. But he was very committed and it took time within his career, which a lot of people don't know. He took time off to go and find himself, to go and understand what one Andy Flower was about and sort of work out. He read a lot, I think he still does, on what it takes to be successful. And I think that sometimes we forget in the game of cricket that, you know, yes, we are the beautiful game that we try and make cricketers, but first and foremost, we make human beings. And I think Andy Flower got that right. He went and soul-searched and found out, what he was all about. And sort of the ingredients of being successful, whether that was on the cricket field when he batted or kept or was a captain, but more importantly and first and foremost, what was to be successful as a human being. And I think he worked that out very quickly. And I think that was the secret to his success. Some people would have struggled. The Andy Flower mentality of successful, I still remember my first, he was older than me. You can see by my hair and Andy Flower's hair that he's a lot older than me, was a scenario that there was no second best. He accepted only the best. I remember arriving at my first fielding practice and a ball was hit out to the boundary, standing behind the stumps, threw the ball and it bounced a metre in front of him and he left it and he called me over and he was like, "Really? Is that how you throw at practice?" I was 19 years old. He made me go and fetch the ball. He said, you do that again, you're not invited back to my practice. So he set a standard for himself, and because of that, he expected everyone to match that. And either you were part of that or you weren't. And I was lucky that drove me to be better within myself. And I look back fondly at what I learned.
Dirk, is that the reason why he's so successful with the franchise cricket? And also, he went on to coach the English side. I mean, what is the reason? I mean, you've enumerated him as a thinker, as a great guy, as someone who would always chase the impossible. Of course, he created, with his brother, he created that magical 2000-2001 tour where he scored in plenty. But what is it that the coach's mindset that he has that people didn't see coming when he was playing then?
I think what he does as well, and maybe not by nature, but he's developed it. He's, you know, if you're playing cricket and a number 11 is explaining you how to hit the ball over extra cover as a batter, you're not really going to listen to him.
Right.
It's a little bit like getting a psychologist into the team who's never played the game of cricket before and walks in and says, "You know what, I know that you're going to be playing in front of 80,000 people before." And the first thing in your mind is like, no, you don't, because you've never done it yourself. So I think Andy Flower had developed this belief in people, in him, because he's done it. If he told you that you had to sprint between the wickets, he led by example. If If he told you this is how you play a sweep shot, he led by example. And I think he's developed that kind of respect from people that when Andy Flower talks, you listen. I think what he's also done is very good in surrounding himself with people that he believes will get the best out of other people. And he's done that very well. And he's been very successful, not only with the English side and his stints in the IPL, but you look at all the work he's done around the world in different competitions, in different cultures, on different surfaces, is that one thing never goes away, and that's the standards we set. That's what we believe in, what needs to be done right, and he sticks to that. Well, I think that's why he's been...
Absolutely. In fact, he was the coach yesterday where RCB took on a mammoth task of chasing, especially with their three key batters in the dugout. We'll now move our focus to the match today, Chennai Super Kings versus your Gujarat Titans. Of course, one led by two of the youngsters, the Simbas who are trying to become the Lion King, are trying to get into the act. Shubman Gill leading the Gujarat Titans. And there we have Rituraj Gaikwad, an impressive record while opening it for CSK. 335 runs in the last 10 matches with a strike rate of 145, almost. Stanley, I just want to shift my focus on to you. What do you make of the match today? We've had long discussion on the match today. What do you think of it? I think you'll have to unmute yourself. We can't hear you. Stanley, check, check, check.
It's an interesting affair, if you ask me, because one, the focus obviously will be on the two captains themselves, Gaikwad and Gill. Gill starting off really well, Gaikwad as well, but there's plenty of inexperience. So that's a matchup on its own. I think Gaikwad will probably have the better side of things because he's got Mahendra Singh Dhoni in that team. He's got a senior camp that's been steady, that's been around for a while. So in terms of marshalling the troops, I think he's got the help. I can't say the same for Gill, having lost obviously Hardik Pandya and moving on to Mumbai Indians. There isn't that plenty of experience around him that he can rely on as opposed to Gaikwad.
Well, interesting. David Brooks, you have four of the important players, Rachin, Ravindra, Rituraj Gaikwad, Conway and Rahane. What do you make of that opening top five batters for your CSK?
Yeah, well, first of all, very interesting to hear from Stanley and from Dirk. I don't think many of us would have lasted long in an Andy Flower fielding session. Yeah, in terms of the batsmen today, Ravindra is someone who I've been looking forward to seeing. He didn't disappoint, top scoring in the first game. I think he's a key man because he shows the ability to really take the game away from the opposition. Jadeja, of course, in the centre of things in the middle. I'm slightly favouring the Titans today. I think it will be a close game. I think it will favour the side batting second, but I would give it to the Titans. I just like the way they're playing under Shubman Gill, and they've got the weapon, the key weapon, the man who's very difficult to get away. That's Rashid Khan, who could be the difference in the end between the two sides.
Well, what's with the little older senior players? Today we see Ajinkya Rahane, if you talk about his previous game, shown an aggressive approach with the bat in the last match against RCB, scoring 27 runs of 19 deliveries with 2 sixes. And we had someone called Dinesh Karthik putting a rabbit out of the hat. What is this going on with 35 plus players, David?
Well, that seems to be the case. I mean, we might see Dirk back again. It's the senior players who are prolonging their careers in the T20 format. And we're seeing that time and time again in franchises all around the world. I'm not surprised to see Virat is still performing because of his amazing fitness. But yeah, Rahane was perhaps written off prematurely from the Indian national side, but he's got a lot more cricket left in him. The way that he's increased his strike rate is very noticeable over the last few years in the IPL. And of course, you've got that, Daryl Mitchell in there as well. So, no, a lot of experience, and Jadeja's experience too. We've seen that experience really count in the IPL and in all the franchise tournaments.
In fact, I'm going to. Dirk has just joined us back. Dirk, welcome to the show again. This is a larger question to the team, especially with a lot of voice and the cacophony that goes around saying that you're above 35, I think your time in the T20 is done, you're done and over with. But here you see something else. You have Ajinkya Rahane, you have Jadeja, you have Virat Kohli and Dinesh Karthik. I mean, they're hammering the ballers all across the park. Do you think that mindset has to change, especially at a time when you had Roger Federer, Ronaldo, Tiger Woods, all playing and extended their careers? Your views?
So maybe because I'm a little bit old school.
Yes.
I don't see that there's any substitute for experience. I also watch how. So I have a young boy who's playing cricket, and in our days when we played, we didn't watch a lot of cricket on TV. So unfortunately, Andy Flower was the best chance of seeing someone sweep and reverse sweep. We didn't get to watch a lot of that. Nowadays, you're watching all these bizarre shots. I mean, you watched Glenn Maxwell at the World Cup, and that's the most unbelievable innings I think we will see in our lifetime, of a guy who didn't move his feet, played like baseball-style cricket, and won a game for Australia. That someone who's a full layman will go, that's the way you play cricket. So I look at these guys and I educate my son in saying, not everyone can be the Kieran Pollard, but be the Kane Williamson, be the Ajinkya Rahane, because there's still a space for those kind of people in world cricket and even at the IPL. So it goes back again to the big talk on today's game about these two young captains. And I think it's a masterstroke in the sense that you have these two young captains. One has the ability to learn from Ajinkya Rahane, who's been around and played so much cricket and from yesteryear. And then you have this guy who is going to take advice from arguably one of the greatest minds still playing cricket in MS Dhoni. You cannot buy that stuff. You cannot buy that experience. And I think as much as we look at who's going to win, who's not going to win, I think there's going to be a perfect blend here of youthful exuberance, of youngsters that want to express themselves, which I think that's what makes modern sport great. But there's also going to be that mind game, because when you get to that top level, they're all, when I say they're all pretty much the same, they're not, but there's that little 2-3% that will change a game. And that could be a little gem of advice from MS Dhoni, or something that Ajinkya Rahane is going to do and he's going to tell a youngster. And I guess it goes back again to the exact same example of Andy Flower, of what he instilled in us as youngsters when we first made that national side, is that's why those guys are there. Just because he's a little bit older, it doesn't mean anything. But what they could learn from him is something that they cannot buy anywhere off the shelf.
Doug, that's a brilliant advice and a brilliant, I think it's old school, new school, whatever school you talk about, it's still relevant. And that's what Dinesh Karthik did yesterday. He took them onto the cleaners, and within few deliveries, he had a strike rate of around 200. And that's something which is arguably one of the better finishes of the game. I'd like to ask you another question. When a youngster walks into the team, and he has all the big experienced players, like you did at 19, when you had the Streaks of the world, the Flower brothers, you had the other big names. Were you nervous, or in today's world, it's almost a finished product when a 19-year-old walks in, vis-a-vis when you walked into the side as a 19-year-old?
So I think that the game has changed. You know, we weren't lucky enough to play all these great tournaments around the world. I think that, you know, also in our days, you had a coach, assistant coach. You didn't really have a fitness trainer. You had a physiotherapist. You ran around the field a couple of times, sort of stretched a couple of ways, and you got on and played a game. You know, the game has evolved so much in there's people that are almost employed just to tell you this is what your role in the team's going to be. So you almost get to a game or in a team where you feel like you're at home. You know, you take a Brevis who started with the Mumbai Indians a couple of years ago, and now you've got this youngster from South Africa who won player of the tournament at the Under-19 World Cup, Mapaka. You know, you look at those kind of guys, they barely left home. But you're not expecting them to fit into the biggest tournament on the globe, on the world stage.
Absolutely.
And I think that by nature what's happened is that cricketers have matured a lot more. I don't think I would have coped. It was just enough for me getting on an aeroplane and arriving at India and looking out as I walked off the aeroplane and going, what the heck am I doing here? I think those things have changed. And I have no doubt that a lot of them will be sitting and going, you can be in awe of MS Dhoni or Ajinkya Rahane or Andy Flower. But let me just tell you the opportunity that you have here. When you leave India after the IPL, make sure that if one thing that you take something home that you've learned from these guys will put you in good stead for the rest of your career.
Absolutely. That's one piece of honest, brutal advice Dirk has it. Dirk, please stay tuned with us. We'll now shift our focus to the Gujarat Titans bowling attack. And before we wrap up our show, again, the cricket predictor comes into place. But right now, David, what do you make of the Afghan players here in Gujarat Titans? Rashid Khan and Omar Zai, your views?
Omar's a terrific IPL debut, didn't he? He certainly impressed. And him and Rashid Khan are adding a lot of value. I mean, I'm a huge Rashid Khan supporter and fan. You know, he's so economical, very difficult to get away. His stats bear that out. So two key people there. Impressed too with Mohit Sharma, whether she should make the final 11 today. I mean, Spencer Johnson had a tricky start, but then came good, didn't he? In his last over. So I think the bowling is there for the Titans, and particularly with Rashid Khan as the spearhead.
Final question: what's your cricket predictor of the day today? Who's going to make it?
Titans just to win. I think they're not the favourites, but I think they could spring a surprise here, and I would give it to them in a tight game, particularly if they win the toss and bat second.
Absolutely. I'll come to Stanley a little later, but I'll get the international. Dirk, if you can hear me, what's your prediction? Dirk.
So I'm a bit of an underdog myself. So I'm going to go for the underdog. I'm going to say they're going to beat CSK.
Wow.
I think as well is that when you have the underdog tag, you have a little bit more to prove. One, two, I think that you play with a little bit more exuberance and you feel freer to play that. I think there'll be more expectation on CSK. I'm going to go with the excitement of the new bowler. Roxy said that he thought that maybe the Aussie fast bowler wasn't going to get a game today. He didn't have a great start. I would start with him. I'd give him a bash. I think he's got his tail up. And I'm going to go with the underdog tag.
Brilliant.
Miller, I like him. They're going to win it.
So we had two underdog tags. Stanley, what's your final word on this before we wrap our show for the day today? Stanley.
Well, beautiful exuberance, but it's useful exuberance that's coming up against the experience. So it's an interesting game. Look, I'd like to back the Chennai Super Kings on this one. And especially when it comes down for me in terms of that captaincy, how he marshals the spinners. I think the spinners are key. But out of interest, it's the surface will play a big part here because the first game, the season opener, we're expecting the spinners to do the job, the spinners to take the wickets. But the CSK spinners went wicketless the whole game. And it was actually Mustafiz who came to the party and taking a four. So I'm really looking forward to see what the conditions will be like because I think they will play a massive part. If the conditions are favouring the spinners, then I think Titans could be in trouble here.
Well, today the underdogs are in majority, and Stanley with his experience and this thing wrapping off Chennai Super Kings. Well, that's all we had time for on Cricket Predictor.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.